Hey, how's it going? I was reading the news today about Mr. Robert Levinson, who has been missing for about 6 years. Mr. Levinson was a special agent with the FBI. He was with the Bureau for 28 years, and after he retired, he began working as a private investigator. He was on the island of Kish, looking into an apparent cigarette smuggling operation there. He checked into his hotel room and disappeared the next day. His family contacted the Iranian government, and they deny knowing where he is or deny having custody of him. And just recently, Secretary of State John Kerry met with the family. Now, the island of Kish is Iran's free trade zone. It is a luxury luxury resort hotel type of place. Shopping malls, tourist attractions. They got scuba diving, all kinds of neat stuff like that. They also have organized crime activity on that island, which includes smuggling operations. And it is widely suspected that the Iranian government gives its tacit approval to smugglers. In other words, if you want to be a smuggler working out of that island, you have to have the permission of the Iranian government. So they get a piece of the action. So, any outsider looking into the smuggling operation will not be looked upon kindly by the Iranians, because this person would be intent on shutting the operation down, which would cost the Iranians money. Cigarette smuggling is big business in the Middle East. But see, normally, someone looking into the operation like that would most of the time simply be killed, dumped in a ditch by the criminals. The government involved might just simply arrest them, beat them up, and kick them out of the country the next day. But that hasn't happened. All right, he was incommunicado for 3 years. And then a videotape of him was released by his abductors. And due to the quality of the video and the subsequent photographs, people think that it's a group of professionals that are holding him, most likely Iran's intelligence services. So it is believed that the Iranian intelligence agency has custody of him and has had custody of him for 6 years. Now, people might wonder, now why are they holding on to the guy? Why all this secrecy? Why don't they just say they arrested him for espionage activities and make a big public deal about it? Well, because he was an FBI agent for 28 years. You see, the thing is that the FBI is not only the United States' #1 federal law enforcement agency, they're also our #1 counterintelligence agency. And the Iranian spy agencies would no doubt like to know how the FBI works. What kind of procedures does the FBI follow when investigating espionage activities within the United States? And does the FBI teach these methods to other intelligence agencies of other countries? And the Iranians, no doubt, want that information, because all the information they might have gotten ever from the FBI or the CIA is prior to 1979. All right, so that information is way out of date. They wanted something more. If they wanted something more current, they would have had to get it from someone who only recently left the FBI and more than likely maintained his contacts with the Bureau even after retirement. And he had been retired for like 10 years. So what I think happened is they found out he was on the island, or they knew he was coming, and as soon as he was there, as soon as he checked into his hotel room, they grabbed him. And most likely they have been interrogating him for the past 6 years, getting whatever information out of him they possibly could. Now, in case you're wondering, now, how would we see that out here in the real world? Wouldn't we see some sort of improvement on the part of Iran or their friends in terms of their espionage or counter-espionage activities? We actually have. In the past few years, it's been noticed that Hezbollah has not only managed to frustrate the CIA in their work in the Middle East, but also the Mossad. The Mossad has been trying to infiltrate Hezbollah's inner circle for a long time, but they keep getting frustrated because of Hezbollah's expertise in counter-espionage. Surprising for a group of people. Now, you would think that, yeah, Iran's intelligence agency and counterintelligence is pretty good, but they're good enough to beat the Mossad? Maybe not, unless they got a little bit of input from a veteran FBI agent. Now, the news reports have not mentioned what kind of work Mr. Levinson did when he was with the FBI, whether he was working bank robbery details or if he did counterespionage himself. That part has been left out of news reports. But if he ever did work in counterespionage, those talents would be certainly something that the Iranians would want to learn as much about as possible. Now, people might be thinking, well, that he wouldn't believe that he would give up that information willingly. I'm not saying that he gave it willingly. I'm saying he was taken in custody and most likely, very likely, forced to give that information under interrogation. Either they could threaten his life or they could threaten the lives of his family. And you might think that the Iranians are, at least from our Western perspective, a bunch of knuckle-dragging Neanderthals. In fact, they are not. They're actually quite good at what they do, their intelligence agency. And now, if they've gotten input from Mr. Levinson's expertise, they've become even better. And that would certainly frustrate our intelligence gathering operations in the Middle East and threaten the safety of our agents there. So, what could be done? Will the Iranians ever let him go? Well, they can't really let him go without publicly admitting that they lied about having him in the first place. I don't know what the United States could possibly give to Iran in exchange for Mr. Levinson, because whatever we would give them would have to be more substantial than any benefit they could derive from holding on to him. So the Iranians will probably hold on to him until such time as they think that he is no longer of any value, in which case they would either kill him or they would put him in a cell someplace and leave him there to rot. So, we would have to give them something pretty damn valuable in exchange for Mr. Levinson. Now, one way that Iran could come out of this with at least a minor chance of looking good on the world stage is they could pull a Section 31, meaning once they've gotten whatever they want out of Mr. Levinson, the Iranian government could say, oh, you know what? We found him. It was a rogue element of our national intelligence services operating without any official sanction from the federal government. We found out about it, and we went in there and we rescued him, and he's going to be coming home pretty soon. And all those guys who are holding him illegally, we arrested them, and we're going to put them all on trial. Naturally, no Western press would be allowed at that trial. The whole thing would be a secret. But the Iranians could still return him to us. And any statement by Mr. Levinson subsequently saying that he was interrogated by members of the National Intelligence Service, the Iranians would say, yeah, it was a rogue element. What do you want? Section 31, guys. That's the only way we would ever get it back. People who might want to make a big issue of this in the future, barring any sort of extraordinary resolution to this problem, Robert Levinson is never coming home. And I don't think this should be a major issue for our State Department. We have bigger issues with Iran, namely their nuclear program. We're worried that they're going to use it for nuclear weapons. They say they need nuclear isotopes, and they also want to get into nuclear power. We're concerned about the flow of arms from Iran into Iraq. We're concerned about potential activities, subversive activities by Iran against its neighbors. Those are the things that worry us. Those are big issues. Robert Levinson, I hate to say it, but he's not a big issue. He's one man. And bear in mind, and this is going to be hard to hear for a lot of people, If you've been an FBI agent for 28 years, you know things about the Bureau. You know more about the Bureau than people who only there for a few years. You certainly know more than people who've never worked at the Bureau. You know FBI procedures, you know the names of personnel, you know details which would be very damaging if put into the hands of this country's enemies. Mr. Levinson had no business putting himself in a position where he and the information he carries around could end up in the hands of the Iranians. This man went into Iranian territory with no backup, no means of escape. He essentially put himself at the mercy of the Iranians. And this, what we have now, is the end result. Now, when you do things that you really shouldn't do, there are consequences to them. And his custody, his being in custody, most likely of the Iranian intelligence services, those are his consequences. Sorry for his family. You guys take care.